Ladies and gentlemen, this is Adam Anderson,
And I'm Carrie Anderson.
and we are Whole Life Entrepreneurship.
We are.
Yes, that's WLEmission.com, because we're on a mission, aren't we?
We are on a mission.
Yeah, it's a mission. Maybe it's even a movement. We're helping business-owning families have success both in their business and in their families. And here's the secret. It takes both of those things to have the kind of life that you want to have.
It does.
So what are we going to talk about today?
Your hand.
Hashtag CrossFit.
Do you remember last week it was his foot?
So when you can't use your feet, sometimes you use your hands to get around, and then that exasperated my hand. Anyway, I'm going to get an MRI. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, what do you want to talk about this week?
Well, we have been talking about some this week in our Facebook group, a blog that I wrote about toxic community.
It was great. I really want to give you a hand about that.
Yes. I almost was like, give me 5.
It was great. It was great, though.
Yeah. Well, so for those of you who aren't on the Facebook group, you are always welcome to go check out my blog at WLEmission.com and go to the blog section and you can catch up on everything there.
Mm-hmm.
But this week's blog was about toxic community. And so I talked a little bit about what can happen when the community that you're trying to build doesn't build you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't help you get to where you want to go, but actually can even really hold you back, either through behaviors or through words. There are a lot of different ways in which you can really be affected negatively by your community. Can you attest to any of that?
Oh, amen, sister. Amen. You know what just jumped into my head, though, was probably a really solid example. It might be an uncomfortable topic, so if I ask about it and you're like,
I'll tap you on the leg real nice and gently
right.
here.
And just say,
Stop it, honey.
Say Rochambeau, and that'll be our safe word to back out. You had a childhood friend who ended up going to prison for a while.
I do.
And yes, I said had, you said do. So you have a friend who visited the correctional facilities for 13-something years.
Yeah.
And when she got back out, the community that she was in brought her right back into the exact same behaviors. She was in a very, very toxic community. Can you riff on that for a couple minutes?
Well, I don't want to get too much into it.
Sure.
So
It's an example. Rochambeau! Rochambeau!
that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the gist of it. You are the sum of who you surround yourself with. So, I have even had situations personally where I just looked around and I was like, it's not just that they're not building me up. It's that I have outgrown this situation. If I want to better myself, then I have to be around people who are better than I am at the things that I want to do.
Yeah. Or at least have gone forward and have new experiences to share. They don't have to be better, but man, they've got to be additive.
Yes. I mean, I think for my friend's situation, that's a very extreme, lot of nuances tied into that situation. But, I mean, certainly the ties that hold somebody in a position can very much be not just rooted in their community, but rooted in their identity within the community.
So how do you feel, how would you kind of assess, hey, am I in a good community? Am I surrounding myself with people who are additive, or am I surrounding myself with people who are keeping me away from what I'm trying to accomplish?
I think it depends on how you feel about yourself once you leave an interaction with that community.
Ooh.
Are you
awesome.
Happy? Are you generally feeling fairly good about that interaction? but also, do you feel good about yourself? Because, and I go through this in the blog, this was many, many years ago, when I was still young and foolish.
So
thank goodness I'm not that anymore. But when I was a much younger woman and I was hanging out with a group of ladies that were much older than me, and I really wanted to impress them. And so, I mean, I will admit to, sitting around and doing the girl catty thing and talking about people behind their backs. And I got the laughs. They liked me.
Yeah.
I was like so in. But I did not like who I was after that. And come to find out, what I was doing to entertain them, they were doing behind my back. And so, I when I left that community, it was not a pleasant experience. It was a little damaging, and I have felt like it's held me back for a long time, just because you're a little gun shy after that to realize and to be willing and open and vulnerable enough to give up enough of yourself to do that. So to get close with people like that. But from a professional standpoint, I mean, it can be a different situation altogether. And you have examples of that kind of thing. Do you want to speak to a little bit of that?
Yes. So, it's interesting because what you just said, we hadn't talked about before. And I was like, dang, that is spot on. That is exactly right.
I love when our lives bring out stuff that we've never actually
right. I'm like,
said
yes,
to each other.
this is
That's the best part of this being live and this being like an experience. It's an experience for you guys and for us.
Yeah. So I'm like, awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how, if you're in a bad relationship, a bad community, and maybe bad's too strong of a word, but if maybe there's some work that needs to be done, is after an interaction with a person or an environment or a community, you feel less good about you.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So,
or even if you're just, are you stimulated at all towards betterment?
Yep.
If you're sitting there and you're completely bored and you hate it, and you're like, I could have stayed at home and watched CSI.
Or you could have watched Veronica Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have watched all of them.
I may have done that yesterday. All of them. Sometimes a girl's got to binge watch. So again, with the professional side of toxic communities, how do you feel about that?
So the journey I went through, I found, and I have a hard time, for me personally, I have a hard time saying toxic communities.
Let me move this thing. Sorry, hand.
So I have a hard time identifying toxic communities because I think we've said in the past, take 100% of your responsibility.
So you've been the toxic community?
I feel like I've been the toxic community, and I have a hard time saying that it's somebody else's fault. I always think, it's got to be, I have a responsibility. When you're the leader, you're the top of the food chain, you take responsibility for everything.
Right.
And so if I have a toxic community, chances are I'm the leader of that community, and therefore it's my fault. So this is difficult for me to work through because I can't just be like, oh, that's a toxic community, I'm walking away.
Right.
I feel like, oh, I made this, I built this, and I have to figure my way out of it. But that's one extreme. The other extreme is just...
Can I say, to your credit?
Yes.
When I watched that happen within your community, I watched you do something very unique that I don't think many people less self-aware would do. And that's you took yourself out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
There were other reasons too, but...
No, but at the end of the day, the toxic communities I was building, I was just come in and wreck things. It wouldn't be intentional, but I tell you what, if you are a absentee owner of a company, the best thing you can do to completely ruin the authority and culture of the leadership staff you put in place is come in and change things randomly, right? But that was unhealthy, and that undermined a lot of leadership folks that we had. But the kind of stuff I think we're getting to is I had some more self-destructive behaviors.
Right.
that were exasperated and magnified by the communities I was building. And this goes back to some lies I was telling myself. The lie I was telling myself to start with was business is done over beers. You got to go drink, you got to go party, you got to put frat boy Adam on display. People are only going to do business with you if they like you. And nobody told me that. Nobody said, Adam, if you don't do this, blah, blah, blah. So this toxic community was a community I was building in my head. It was a perception issue. I would have gotten just as much business if I wasn't the party guy, because we did a great job and we networked in other ways and there were all this other stuff. But in my head, I had to do it. And then that turned into a shelter for having to deal with the stresses that we were having. Yeah. It was much, much, much more appealing to me to be out at a bar at 1 a.m. hanging out with people who loved me. I'm an excessive tipper. I tip a lot. There's not been many bartenders in the world who are good at their jobs that haven't absolutely charmed me because, I'll write an extra zero because, reasons. Not anymore, sorry. So the idea here was what I had built for myself was a fake community made out of people who were temporary friends, and I had like dopamine hits from being able to interact with them, and I was using that as justification not to come home and do the real work, not to do the stuff that we've learned in our conflict resolution training. I didn't have the tools to approach what was going on at home, and so I chose not to be there. And so not only did I build the toxic communities, but then I maintained the toxic communities, and I kind of was the hero in the toxic community. And I became the guy that other spouses didn't want their husbands hanging out with. And that's when I kind of had my aha moment was, oh crap, I'm that guy. Yeah. I am the guy who I'm telling my people to keep away from, not realizing that it's me. And that was pretty sucky. That was very sucky. But it was also awesome, right? Because as soon as you figure that out, what do we say? I'm the problem, but that's good because that means I'm the solution.
I'm the solution.
So that is an empowering moment when you finally figure out that you are the problem. And I was going to drop the F-bomb right there because I'm serious about it. And I'm like, maybe someone's watching this with a kid nearby and they don't want to hear, Uncle Adam's got a potty mouth.
Anyone who knows you knows that you do. So
yeah, in our if you go to one of our workshops live, it's definitely has like an E next to it for explicit. I just can't stop. I'm sorry. I'm working hard. So yeah, that was my professional stuff, is that I told myself the lie that I couldn't close business. I had a fear-based reaction.
You justified the behavior.
Absolutely. And it was completely fear-based. It was fear. I didn't know how. Because sometimes when you're a startup, even when you're a couple years in, you don't know why people are working with you. You don't know why you're being successful. So you just keep doing the thing that you did yesterday. And chances are, of all of the behaviors, the 80-20 rule totally works. 20% of your behaviors get you 80% of the stuff, but you just don't know what 20% is winning until you've done it long enough.
Well, it seems to me, and I've only been in the entrepreneur game myself for a very short period of time, but it seems to me there is an awful lot of luck involved. And so it makes me think of like, if you were a scientist or something, and that's not to say that there's not hard work, and there's not timing, and that there's not, some thought. There is all of that, and some skill. There is all of that in poker, but there is also luck. But let's say you were a scientist and you had a lab full of rats, and they were able to find the quickest, easiest way to get the cheese. There were other ways, but that was the quickest, easiest dopamine hit that they could get initially. It makes complete sense that you were conditioned to that behavior. And let me remind you, you were conditioned to that behavior by other mentors.
Yep.
People who brought you into the business conditioned that. It's not even 100% your fault, because your behavior was a learned behavior. And it was just infectious. And it caught on to people who were your proteges. And that makes a fundamental illness within the system.
You listening, people?
That's what happens when toxicity permeates a culture. We're not talking just locally within your own businesses. I mean, it's the entire industry. The entire industry can be very, very poisoned by the world that's been created here.
Yep. So to dig deeper into the professional stuff, I learned to do sales and consulting in my tenure at IBM. And what we did is we went out and we worked our butts off, and then we networked our butts off. That meant take the customer for drinks, take the customer for, you know, any adventure that they're interested in that is approved by policy, right? And
some that were not.
Allegedly. Yeah, so that's the way it was working. And when I left IBM, I was like, this is how it works. And also at all the conferences and all the heroic stories were by these older guys who, and for lack of a better way of putting it, grew their portfolios based off of their liver. Right? I say that I grew my first company, my most successful company, off of my liver. And yeah, it created a pretty toxic culture. But I'm really pleased with how we're going about this stuff intentionally. And one of the things, so we had a bit of a conversation yesterday.
It was intense.
So we're doing an
intense conversation.
Yeah, we're doing a conflict resolution and successful conflict conversation webinar coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about that at the end of this little live. But she said I wasn't a good team player, and I'm like, what? I'm an awesome team player. And then we still, by the way, we're not bringing it up. We're not going to bring it up right now because we still don't agree on some of the things. But what we do agree on is you can't be a good team player unless a couple things happen. The first thing is you have to share the same goals, right? If you're trying to score a basket and I'm trying to score a touchdown,
we're not playing the same game.
We're not even there, right? So that's why we have when you start off in our workbooks, it's set a goal, set a vision, set a mission, blah, 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 right? Really what that is what are you trying to accomplish? What are the strategies you're going to deploy? What are the roles that you have to have inside of that strategy to actually make that goal happen? And, then what does the team look like? So I am a really, really bad team player if I don't do these other things. I can be a good person, right? There's a wonderful book that I totally forgot the name of. But it says that you have to be humble, hungry, and smart. And I can be all those things. And I can be an ideal team player, which is the name of the book, and still fail as a good team player if I'm not following her strategies. We see this a lot in our parenting where I have a goal for our daughter to be super creative and and I'm like, be a free spirit. And you're like, she needs to be a lady and she also needs to do her work. And sometimes I have my wires crossed and I undermine her in the middle of parenting.
Yes, he does.
So what we're trying to get done here is how do we make sure we're on the same target? How do we make sure that our target's the same, that we agreed on how we're going to approach this? And guys, I don't know if you've ever ran a business with your spouse before, but we're not on the same page with a lot of stuff.
All the time. I mean, many times, yes. I mean, sometimes it is actually magical and beautiful.
Yes, we know we want to go that way.
Uh-huh.
It's just, I want to go this way because I saw something shiny and I want to work over here. And you're like, can we just go that way? You said you want to go that way. You said we're going to go that way.
I was going.
Why are you going over there, Adam? I'm on board. You can't keep changing the direction. But I'm like, no, serpentine. They can't hit you if you're going like this.
Yeah. Well, so that kind of brings to point two things. What if?
Ooh, what if? I love what if.
What if the toxic person, the toxic community member in your life is somebody that you can't just ghost? Well, what if?
Like maybe one of your kids.
That toxic community member is someone that you're not working well with within your household.
You talking about my mom?
I'm talking about you.
Oh.
I can't get rid of it.
Well,
I mean, I
Carrie.
guess I could.
Carrie.
I don't consider you to be toxic.
I
Let me
know.
just say that. But there are certainly times within passionate moments that while we're going through this intense conversation time where I'm not feeling great about myself, you're not building me up. I mean, you know, that's not 100% of marriage. That's not how it is. It's
Super
that's
high
not
highs,
real.
super low lows.
Yeah, exactly. And that's expected. Like, you can't just ghost them every time they
Well,
piss you off.
you're talking about power plays and walkaways. And
Yes, we are.
so I walk away, and that makes me feel super powerful because you're not the boss man. I walk away, you can't do anything to me, I'm still me. And you do power plays. You blow up super huge, like, oh, and I shall command this, and we will stay here, and it will happen. So we're both doing unhealthy things. And by the way, it turns
You make
out
me sound like Gandalf or something.
you shall
not pass.
You shall not parent that way. You shall not do that Facebook ad.
Oh, yeah. No.
As long as that doesn't result in physical violence, the thing that is often the most damaging is the walkaway, which is kind of weird. So we are going to be doing a whole lot of work over the next little while
Yes.
on conflict resolution
Yes.
when you have to have a conversation with somebody. And this person deserves a successful conflict conversation when there's a problem that needs to be solved, that you guys are interdependent, you can't solve it solo, that you have emotion in, right? Like probably a negative one, like anger. Like if you're super happy, there's probably not conflict. And that is causing a measurable business problem.
Yes.
And by the way, when we say business, we mean the business of life. That means
Yeah.
it could be manifesting in a lot of different ways.
If I don't check the mail and I don't have all the tax documents that you're going to need to file taxes for your companies, that too is a problem.
Even worse, and she didn't do this, but what if we were in such a conflict and you were so pissed off that I was making you do all this stuff, you're like, it's not my job, and you just threw the stuff down and we lost all the things, right?
Yeah.
So conflict has a cost. And we're going to do a conference, a webinar this week, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, on
You can-
Wednesday.
Yes, you
the
can.
24th.
You can go and sign up at wlemission.com/workshop.
Yes.
And we hope that you do. And even if you don't, head to wlemission.com and sign up for our newsletter. We're doing this stuff.
Yes.
We're trying to collect a bunch of emails and keep you guys in the
Absolutely.
loop. Because, man, this thing is getting heated up. We got a virtual summit coming up, and I am just shocked and surprised about how many awesome speakers are raising their hand.
I
And
know.
actually, we've had to move some of the speakers to the next one. We've already filled up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we need your email so we can let you know.
We do. We
Because
need to let you
Facebook
guys
is
know.
weird.
We need
So,
to let you guys know.
so,
Yeah. And we made it easy for you, right? It's
Did we?
wlemission.com. We didn't make you try to spell entrepreneurship.
we almost did. I just couldn't ever get to our landing page. I got whole life is there an R
Wait,
and
is there
then an
an
E?
E?
Where's the? I know the
There's
U.
so many
is
E's.
an R before E except for U? Yeah, wlemission.com.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. So don't forget, guys, this week, Wednesday, July 24th,
Sounds good.
2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be doing a conflict resolution webinar for you guys because it is that important. Because we can't get rid of everybody in our community. Now you can sometimes there are those people that you have to just be like, they need to go. And to do that, that's a whole nother
That's lawyers and
Sunday
counselors.
live.
That's lawyers and counselors. And by the way, if the spouse number 2 thinks spouse number 1 has somebody in their life that needs to go, I've tried. You can't just say, you got to ghost that person. He doesn't respond well.
No.
So, final reminder, join us Wednesday,
Yes.
2 p.m. Head to wlemission.com/workshop
Absolutely.
and register for the thing. And we're going to have a special offer for 50 folks. And you're going to need to stick around to the end of the conference to hear it. So, Yeah.
It'll be worth your time. You'll be glad you did.
I tell you what, last thing, then we're literally out of here.
Really, this time.
The tools that we're about to share with you are going to give you a clue on how the psychology and biochemistry works. And just understanding how that works makes your conflict so much better. It's super fast to get good at it, and then there's a whole lot of work to get great at it.
And I promise, this thing on his hand did not come from our conflict yesterday. That's a true injury. That's not just from me beating him.
She is not good at judo, but we still try. And she's like, "Is this how you flip them?" I'm like, "You just twisted my arm. You're not even."
What?
Should get that in my head.
Anyway, we will hope you have a very, very good week, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.